What's going on, everyone? Welcome to today's show with SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, Lee Martin, here to break down the card for UFC Vegas 34, Cannonier versus Gastelum. And I say this all the time, but every time there's a week off, I feel like I have not been here for a year, and I hate those weeks off. But we're back, okay? And we're going to have some action for this weekend. And joining me today with their breakdowns and picks, like always, we have SBR's UFC expert, David Manyun, and MMA Mania's lead host, Matt Ryan. Now, before we get into all the good, juicy stuff, like always, just real quick, give this video a like and subscribe to our channel. And I have a nice little note for all of my football fans out there. Yes, football season is literally right around the corner, so you know what that means. Yes, SBR's Pick 6 football contest, and it is probably my most favorite contest because you're always winning money every week. So there's a total of $50,000 in cash prizes, and it is absolutely free to enter. If it's for free, it's for me. So you got to enter in this contest, all right? There will be weekly cash prizes totaling $1,600 a week, and at the end, there will be grand prizes totaling $20,000. So you better become an SBR Pro to reap all the grand prize benefits. So sign up and register at sbrpicks.com/pick6. Now, let's get this show on the road. Like always, I want to begin with a recap of our previous event, and that was UFC 265, Lewis versus Gane. And for everyone that didn't know, I was there, and it was a completely different experience than just watching it on your TV, especially in Texas. You have the roar of the crowds, so all you can do is just scream and lose your voice, and I did lose my voice. So sadly, we didn't have a show last week, so you can hear me squeaking about. But I want to hear about your guys' picks, how your weekend went, and I definitely missed you guys, all right? So I'm going to begin with Dave. Can I have a recap of your night from UFC 265?
It was almost perfect night for me. 10-2 on my straight picks, 5-0 on my locks. And yeah, overall, it was, as I say, it was pretty much perfect. Apart from thinking that Cyril Gane was going to win by decision, which, you know, it did surprise me. Because I did believe that Derek Lewis, being in his hometown, the last thing that was going to happen, he was going to get knocked out in the third round. I thought that if Lewis was going to drop the ball, it may have been real late on in that fourth or fifth, a late fourth or fifth round. And no, Gane impressed, and he impressed real well. And I was tossing and turning on Luque Chiesa. In the end, I did go with Luque, and thank God I did, because man, that was an incredible fight. And then obviously, I think I gave 2 locks out, and I think they both cashed. Tisha Torres and Rafael Fiziev. Yeah, they both pulled through, and it was a real good night to go 10-2.
Yeah, it was definitely a good night. I had Lewis, obviously, and it was really sad just being there, because I sat next to Derek Lewis's manager the whole night. So he was we were just talking about Derek, and he was kind of frustrated, saying like, you know, I wish he had a little bit more output, because he just needs that one clip. But he seemed like something was stopping him. So it was like everyone was very sad there for Derek Lewis, but Cyril Gane, very impressive with his performance on Saturday. But Matt, my dear, how about you? How was your UFC 265? Oh, I think your mic is muted, my dear.
Prognostication business. And when you're trying to actually make a point and your microphone is off,
yeah,
you get things wrong. In World of Combat, he guarantees that he has better picks than us. But World of Combat, you don't take into account the things we think about. And we're humans here. We're not robots. We're human beings. Mm-hmm. And Derek Lewis was a Studebaker, and he broke down in front of God and everybody. That guy just couldn't get off the blocks in that fight. Yeah. And it made me sad. But the card delivered beyond my expectations. It was a fun time. Lee had a blast from what I saw on social media. I'm just glad she made it back alive. And I am ready to talk about a weirdly interesting fight card we have tonight with Clay Guida in the co-main event. And I had to check a calendar. I had to check what year it was. I had to make sure I was in the year of our Lord 2021. And let's lean with it and let's rock with it, kids.
Yeah, no, I was when I was breaking down this card, I was just like, I was confused. Not confused. I was just like, do I love this card or do I not love this card? But anyway, we're gonna break down 5 fights for the main card today. So let's just get this show on the road. So for the first fight, we have flyweight Alexandre Pantoja versus Brandon Royval. Via BetOnline, Pantoja is -178 and Royval is +153. Matt, I'll begin with you for your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
All right, so we've got Pantoja, who's 2-2 in his last 4, 3 of those going to decision, and then you have Brandon Royval, who got dropped by Brandon Moreno in the Battle of the Brandons just a few months ago, that caused the end of a 4-fight winning streak. You take a look at who Pantoja has beaten and faced off in that last 4. It's Manuel Nape, it's Askar Askarov, Matt Schnell, and then obviously Davison Figueiredo. No jabrones, no schmucks in this recent run. His last loss was halting a 3-fight win streak. That loss to Figueiredo, ended a 3-fight winning streak. This is a guy who has had a pretty impressive run, despite his stats not showing it in the UFC so far. And then you got Royval, who has a loss to fellow UFC fighter back in 2018, Casey Kenny, but he's got wins over Kai Kara-France, someone we love to talk about on this show, Tim Elliott, Nate Williams, and Joba Sanchez, and had a 4-fight winning streak all by submission. For Pantoja, he's never been tapped. Every time he loses, he goes to the scorecards. For Royval, he's 1-4 when going by decision. I like this fight going deep. I like this fight going to the scorecards, which is giving me Alexandre Pantoja as the guy to pick in this fight. I think that the deeper this fight goes, we're in the baby cage, and we haven't seen Pantoja get tapped. Mm-hmm. He's a guy that can go the distance, who can knock someone out. He's got 8 knockouts on his record, but there's not enough there from either fighter to kind of give me a clearer path. I just see this going to decision, and if you're looking for a parlay piece, I would throw Pantoja and the over and a decision in there.
All right. So I included this in my top UFC picks breakdown, and I was very 50-50 with this one, especially if the fight's on the ground. But I do have it going to the decision, and via BetOnline, the prop for this to go to the decision is -125. But I am leaning Brandon Royval if it goes to the decision. And I'll keep it brief. I feel like he has a much higher output than Pantoja. And I feel like if it's going to go to the scorecards, I feel like he's just going to rack up with his striking, and if it's on the ground, it'll be very 50-50 to me, in my opinion. But if it goes to the scorecards, I don't know. This is a tricky fight, but I love this fight so much. So Dave, You're really tugging at my nerves right now because, 1, I love how you say Alexandre Pantoja's name, and 2, you always make me nervous with your picks. So I want to hear your breakdown and pick for this first fight.
First off, look, the flyweight and the bantamweight division for me, they're 2 of the most exciting and stacked divisions in the entire company. So it's rough when I look at this card as the first fight on the main card. I think this should be the co-main event. This fight, we're kicking it off with these flyweights, and in my opinion, it's potential to be fight of the night. But I'm not a matchmaker. I don't work for the UFC. They will do what they will do. And yeah, Pantoja, really, he's coming up against a tough dude, and I've underestimated Brandon Royval in the past, particularly as Matt mentioned in that Kai Kara-France fight. I really did. I didn't think he stood a chance, and he proved me wrong. When a man gets dropped with a strike and his response is to instantly throw a spinning back elbow, I think you need to pay attention to crazy fighters like this. This kid is just entertainment. It's like watching a young Tony Ferguson in his prime. He's unpredictable. He's dangerous everywhere, and he's a finishing purist. Again, as Matt mentioned, the majority of his wins, they come by finish. He's not a decision fighter because he doesn't let them fights go to the judges. And you'll notice the amount of submission finishes on his record. And this gets a lot of assistance from his long body type for this division. He's 5'9", with the majority of these flyweights, they're 5'4", 5'5", 5'6". This guy is big for the decision, and there aren't many flyweights as long as him, and he really does use this to his best advantage. For that high number of submission finishes that he owns, and his striking style is just crazy. It's unconventional on the feet, spinning attacks, as I said, they come in bunches, and he likes to find his range early by spamming the jab, and then once he's found that range, you can expect just a diverse amount of strikes to be coming through, knees to the body, knees straight up the middle, and with that large height, he doesn't struggle to reach the chin of these smaller opponents with that knee. Now, Pantoja, on the other hand, he's certainly the more technical-based striker, but there's nothing much outside of the 1-2. Sometimes he will finish that combo with a leg kick on occasions, but majority of the time you're going to see him throwing them 1-2s, whether it be moving forward or counter-striking. He plods forward with confidence, not a great deal of footwork and cutting angles, but I think this is just down to his confidence in his power. Now, when you look at the grappling of both men, that's pretty damn good too. And although Royval does have a bunch of submissions on his record, you have to look carefully at Pantoja's career, and you'll see him, locking up these slick rear naked chokes earlier on in his career, and is a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner. And I'm pointing this out because Royval does give up his back quite easily, and I presume we're going to see this fight play out all over. And in these scrambling positions, I do have to give the advantage to Pantoja. But again, Royval throws up so many submissions, you can never really count this kid out. I do think we're going to see a back and forth war. Pantoja is not going to get knocked out. This guy's chin is made of brick. And, the likes of Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, these elite guys, champions, former champions, they can't finish him. I can't envision Royval achieving it. I am going to side with Pantoja in this one. I think he's got a better chin. I think he's going to be stronger in the scrambles and the grappling exchanges. He's got more power in his punches. The smaller cage also favors Pantoja, in my opinion. A guy who doesn't cut angles as much, and, he leans on that pressure. He's going to close the distance, and I think he's going to own that distance. Now, don't get me wrong. This is going to be a competitive fight. But I do think the more experienced fighter is going to prevail here. And I am siding with Pantoja to take the W, most likely on the judges' scorecards. But as you said, Lee, the output, and these judges, they've been funny lately, and this could be a real sticky split decision. Mm-hmm. And it's not going to take a lot for these judges just to go, well, this guy's been going crazy, and he's landed more strikes. So it is a bit tough, but when I'm watching Pantoja and the tape on Pantoja, for me is the more well-rounded and the more experienced fighter. I think he's just gonna have slightly high fight IQ. In fact, a lot more fight IQ, because Pantoja's just wild. I think he's gonna put himself in certain situations, too many spinning attacks, maybe one too many kicks. He's gonna get caught. He's gonna get grounded. I think ground control is gonna be the thing here for Pantoja. As I say, I think Pantoja is gonna be better in the scrambles. And he's going to be able to defend them submissions more than anything. So I am going to side with Pantoja for this one.
All right, Dave, we'll just go ahead and rip my heart out. But
Sorry.
I guess no. I guess we'll see. The one thing that really stood out to me is the output. That's what, if it's going to the decision. But again, like I said, if it's on the ground, I have a feeling this fight's going to be all over the ground. It's going to be a huge scramble, and I feel like Pantoja will win that way. But that's my opinion. All right, but if you guys want to get in straight up via BetOnline, Pantoja is -178 and Royval is +153. But let's move on to the next fight. We have lightweight Vinc Pichel versus Austin Hubbard via BetOnline. Pichel's -108 and Hubbard's -112. Matt, I'll go with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
Well, we've got someone coming off of, we go from a fight where people are coming off of losses to people coming off of wins. Vinc Pichel, which is a fantastic fighter name. We got to put that in the pantheon of solid fighter names. He's got wins over Jim Miller and Roosevelt Roberts by unanimous decision. His last loss was a submission by Gregor Gillespie. He's 6-2 since joining the UFC, but both of his losses have been by stoppage. So he's been knocked out and he's been tapped since joining the UFC, and has never lost when the fight has gone past round 2. So that's an interesting stat there as we look in deeper into this fight. I saw somebody in the chat, World of Combat, who should stop making video game videos and do some real work, said UFC betting has nothing to do with odds or statistics, just fighters. but the fighters are a compendium of their odds and statistics. So,
and this is a betting show too. Just
yes, this is how gambling works. I don't know if you know that. But when we take a look at this, Hubbard, though, he's fought in the Apex 3 times so far. This will be his 4th fight inside the baby cage. He's 2-1 inside the Apex. He's had losses to Davi Ramos, Mark Madsen, and Joe Selecki, and wins over Dakota Bush, who he took the decision win in his last fight, Max Ropskoff with a TKO, and Kyle Probosik by decision. So when you take a look at the level of competition, I'm not fading Hubbard, but I just like Pichel in this fight. I like his momentum. I like that he's got this 2-fight winning streak over some veteran heads. And I think that that's going to propel him a little bit forward. And I see this fight going to decision. Both of these guys have had, multiple fights go to decision, and the deeper this fight goes, the better it is for Pichel.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? Do you have a different breakdown than Matt?
No, I don't actually. Look, Vinc Pichel, age 38, I've got to take my hat off to him. Outside, in recent fights, outside of that elite wrestling of Greg Gillespie, he's been kind of untouchable. And taking out the veteran and Jim Miller, that was impressive. Defeating the young, up-and-coming Roosevelt Roberts, nice. Now, Pichel's leaned on that grappling of his own, which is why you'll notice them career losses, they all come up against guys who can grapple, and most of the time guys who can grapple really well. I think Hubbard is going to prevail in the stand-up for sure. Pichel's striking is quite basic, and there's some glaring red flags, like leaving his hands low, and a huge lack of defense could cost him against the likes of Hubbard. But here, the path to victory for Pichel is kind of obvious. He's going to want to grapple. He'll use his striking to get in the distance, look for a double leg. You'll notice it will be mainly against the fence rather than out in the open. He loves being up against the fence. I've noticed this is where he's most comfortable grappling and where he's won majority of his fights. Now, grappling heavy fights near that cage is where he's going to be able to control his opponent, back body locks, delivering strikes in that position, and just not allowing his opponent, letting Hubbard get his attacks and get his striking offense going. Now, saying that, Hubbard, he has been known to accept positions, which is something he'll have to really avoid in this scrap. But in his defense, he has faced some strong grapplers like Davi Ramos, Marco Madsen, who's also on the card, Olympic wrestler, and Joe Selecki, who got the submission finish on him. The problem with Hubbard for me is a real slow starter. If anybody can find me a first round that Austin Hubbard has won, I'll give you $20. But in saying that, once he gets going, he does let off some nice combinations, which is where he's really going to want this fight, standing. His path to victory is the polar opposite. He's going to own the striking advantage, but other factors like cardio and durability, that they're quite even across the board. You got your cliche grappler versus striker. It's a close bout for that reason, but I'm going to take the wrestler. And by decision, Vinc Pichel by decision. If you do want to bet Hubbard, I will say, and if you like Hubbard, don't be taking the price that you've got now. Just wait till after that first round, because he's not going to win the first round. He does every single fight I've watched the Hubbards. This guy is just, it's like he's not there in the first round, and then in comes the second round. And you know what he does tend to do well? He tends to, in fact, in most of his career wins, he's winning this because of his opponent's cardio, and Pichel doesn't have bad cardio. I know he's 38 years old, but I think the cardio of Pichel is going to hold out, and that's going to be a problem for Hubbard. And I think he's going to grind him out, that grappler wrestling style, and just run himself to the judges' scorecards and win. So I got Vinc Pichel by decision. I like fight to go to the distance over 2.5. All of them plays are viable, if you ask me.
Great. So I'm looking at the props right now. So the fight to go the distance is juiced a little bit at -220, but Pichel by points is plus 150. So the value is
that. I'd be happy with that.
Exactly. So there are the props for you guys. But straight up, where's his name? Pichel is -108 and Hubbard is -112. Matt, did I ask you for your? I do this every damn show.
You did. You did.
Okay.
I'm
like, I'm in another dimension today. So
it's okay.
But there you have it. There you have it straight up. Again, Pichel is -108 and Hubbard's -112. Now for this next fight, we have bantamweight Mana Martinez versus Trevin Jones. So Jones will be fighting someone else in this fight. So that's why we're not going to break down this card. So just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC and also follow Dave on Twitter at @dmanion_, because he's going to be tweeting out his precise picks and everything and all of his UFC content with every brand he works for. So check it out on social media. But let's move on to the next fight. Ooh, and Matt, you're going to be excited for this one. We have heavyweights Parker Porter versus Chase Sherman. Via Bet Online, Sherman is -190 and Porter is +165. So Matt, I'll begin with you for your breakdown and pick for this next fight.
It's time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to talk about violence for the sake of violence. When we take a look at Chase Sherman, he's coming off a loss to Andre Arlovsky back in April. He's ended a four-fight winning streak, all by TKO, including his return to the UFC over Ike Villanueva. So one of those 4 fights came in the UFC. The other 3 came at the regional level, and then they brought him back because they were like, we need bodies. We need bodies. We need people to throw punches and eat punches. But Sherman, he ate a lot of punches in his first UFC tour of duty. He was 2-5 in his first run in the UFC with knockout losses to Augusto Sakai and Walt Harris. I think I brought this up back in April when we talked about Andre Arlovsky. I think I went kind of crazy about the fact Andre Arlovsky was on this card. Not a surprise that I'm always near a mental breakdown over Andre Arlovsky. He's knocked out 14. He's got 1 decision win, but he's got a chin on him. He's been knocked out 4 times and 3 decision losses. So getting him to the ground, this fight's not going to the ground. It might, but I don't think it's going to. You got Parker Porter on the opposite side of the octagon, and he's coming off a unanimous decision win over Josh Parisian back in November. Lost his UFC debut to Chris Daukaus back in August of last year. All 6 of his losses have been by stoppage, with only 1 of them getting past the first round. So if this fight gets past the first round, then it's in his favor. This fight is Chase Sherman's to lose, but here's a fun fact. John Jones was the 4th person to knock out, it was Parker Porter's 4th fight. He was also, Parker Porter, the 4th person to be knocked out by John Jones, and Jones's 5th opponent, and as of today, the 3rd fastest win in Jones's career. So my advice to all of you is to take the under or to hedge on a Chase Sherman decision victory, because this is going to be a weird fight between 2 people who look like UFC created characters if you pick heavyweight in UFC 4 in career mode.
All right, well, how about you, Dave? Do you have a different pick than Matt, or do you have the same one?
Oh, this is ugly. I know Matt likes heavyweights, but this is the bottom of the barrel, and I'm completely surprised that this
I don't like it because it's good, Dave. I like it because it's freak fights.
This, Matt's analogy was actually great. If you go onto UFC and you hit random on that create a character screen, you're going to pull up something that looks exactly like Parker Porter, yeah. Chase Sherman, he lost to Andre Arlovsky last time out. Why? Because the guy just doesn't move. He's quite agile and fast for the heavyweight division, but damn, this boy does not defend very well. And his head movement is just non-existent. Now, his boxing output, on the other hand, that's pretty good, fighting in bare knuckle. He's got those fundamentals in boxing range that that we like to see, but with his only win in the UFC, in his last 5 fights coming against Ike Villanueva, I'm kind of not sure if these BKFC fights have kind of deceived me and put more stock into Chase Sherman than he actually deserves. Now, step up Parker Porter, he's a big boy, looks like a brute force for sure. He's going to be slower. We know that. But I think, power and control advantage, I would favor Porter. He mixes up the leg kicks quite nice, and he's going to have a greater wrestling advantage. But is he going to use that? Probably not. I think the downside here is going to be his speed. Obviously, that big belly that he carries around. Oh, actually, I forgot defense. Parker Porter's defense is 100% more effective than Chase Sherman's, because Chase Sherman doesn't have any outside of the leg kicks. And I should also mention actually that Chase does throw leg kicks as well. And I think that is a concern for Porter, because this guy doesn't check leg kicks. This is an ugly fight, and I think something like a calf kick could be the dictator. But then I'm worried that Porter's going to spark Chase out. And then we look at cardio. Shockingly, I think Porter might have the better gas tank here. Chase, when I've seen him outside of the second round, it's like he just wilts, and he doesn't seem to be in the fight anymore. With that said, there's a huge size advantage here. I think it's 4-inch height and reach advantage for Chase. I feel like he could be more active, and back to them leg kicks. I think the calf kicks could be the decider, and with Porter's lack of checking those kicks, maybe that's the path to victory for Chase. But it's already been said, this is an ugly one. It's going to be tough to bet. And when you look at the line, Chase Sherman at nearly -200. Yeah. Am I going to bet that? No, I am not. No, I'm not at all. So maybe the under, like Matt said, but I have struggled to give a solid opinion on this one. I don't really like anything, and personally, I won't be betting any of it, because this is a coin flip. Parker Porter could come out, spark him. Chase could spark him. It could be an ugly, grueling, 15-minute heavyweight fight. I just don't know. There's not much I can take from either of these guys. It's a very low-level heavyweight fight, but I guess, gun to my head, I'll lean Chase, I guess, lacing up them calf kicks on Porter, chopping him down, removing a bit of that power, and taking maybe a round 2 or round 3 stoppage. I mean, I guess there might be some plus money on the over 1.5. Maybe that's a look in. I know Porter's been finished and Chase been finished, but I'm not sure they're going to get it done early. So maybe that's a look in, but as a whole, I think it's a stay away fight.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely not touching this fight. But you mentioned the over 1.5. It's -165 at BetOnline.
Oh, I don't know about that then. Yeah.
And the fight to go the distance, no, is -230. So that's juiced. So like I said, I'm definitely not touching this fight. So take Dave's advice. Just stay away. Right.
Run away from the pain.
Exactly. Just enjoy it, but just don't bet it. Anyway, let's move on to the co-main. We have lightweight Clay Guida versus Mark Madsen via BetOnline. Guida is +140 and Madsen is -160. So Matt, I'll start with you for your breakdown and pick for this co-main.
Now, when Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard put a fight card together, and they realized that the same night of this card that they're obligated to put on is running up against WWE SummerSlam and a Manny Pacquiao fight that was originally supposed to be against Errol Spence Jr. Instead, it's against Ordenis Ugas. Do they just say, screw it, let's just make a whole bunch of random fights and see what happens? Because it feels like that's this card. Because we do have two people that it's like they just decided to randomly make it happen. Because Clay Guida, everybody knows who Clay Guida is. He's a handsome man. Handsome man, looks like a caveman, has hair that I'm jealous of. But he's 2-3 in his last 5, with losses to Bobby Green, Jim Miller, and Charles Oliveira. His last wins were over Michael Johnson in February, and then BJ Penn, parking lot legend BJ Penn back in 2019. Prior to that, he had a 2-fight winning streak, Guida did, in 2017 over Joe Lozon and Eric Koch. It's hard to bet against Clay Guida. The man's an OG. So is, BJ Penn, all of his issues aside. This is an odd fight for him to take. And this is a golden opportunity for Mark Madsen to prove himself as a player in the lightweight division, undefeated, third UFC fight with wins over Austin Hubbard and Danilo Bogliardo, 11 Danish Wrestling Federation Greco-Roman Championships. Now, it's not the Danish Wrestling Federation I would have thought of with a whole bunch of furniture and people going through it, but to each their own. And he was a silver medalist at the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio. There's so many things in this fight that are pointing me towards Mark Madsen. I'm going to take Madsen, and I'm going to take the UD here for him. He's going to go to 11-0, and Clay Guida is going to get his 21st professional loss.
All right. Well, how about you, Dave? Do you have a different breakdown and pick for this co-main?
I mean, I'm not angry at the fight. I'm angry where it's positioned on the card. Mm-hmm. But, you know, as Matt highlighted, it's like they've just said, who's available? Do you want to fight tonight? Legend, UFC legend versus Olympian, 40-year-old versus nearly 37-year-old. It's not the prettiest co-main event, but here we are, I guess. Mm-hmm. I'll start with Madsen. A fighter, you know what you're getting with this guy, you know, Olympic level wrestler. I don't need to tell you his preferred fighting style. But anybody who's looking to test their grappling versus this man, you know, you should probably think of another blueprint because it's going to be a losing battle. Now, Clay, the Carpenter Guida, best hair in the game. And boy, does he like to show it off in that cage with an ADHD style head movement. I think Guida's, you know, he's been looking for a path for a shampoo sponsor since 2006, in my opinion. And as a long-time UFC fan, I've always enjoyed Guida fights, but he's not the same guy. Obviously, anybody getting to that age, you're not going to be the same guy. And also, he likes to wrestle. The majority of his wins have come through wrestling-based offense. How's that going to fare against an Olympic level of wrestling? Not very well, in my opinion. Neither of these men are pretty strikers. Madsen, you know, he does have power. He has dropped people in the past. But he has nothing more than overhand rights. And to be honest, they're really nothing more than setups for the takedowns. But when he gets in that range, getting this guy off here is going to be real difficult. He's got a solid body lock, suplexes, double legs, single legs. That Greco-Roman wrestling, it is beautiful to watch, especially during his Olympic days. You go watch some of his wrestling matches. He is such a good wrestler. Guida's got cardio for days. I could envision him winning the third round because Madsen's cardio is known to be pretty bad. I don't anticipate Madsen finishing Guida, you know, outside of maybe a cut stoppage or some lucky submission. And the problem for Guida is he doesn't really match up well against wrestlers because that's his usual game plan. And now that's eliminated. And I think he's going to struggle. Madsen from minus 250 to minus 170 is great, in my opinion. That's the line movement we want to see. A lot of Clay Guida fans out there, a lot of people looking at Madsen in his previous fights and probably noticing that free round and thinking that maybe Guida can steal this on the judges' scorecards. But I just think those first two rounds are going to be all Madsen. I think it's going to be a wrestling clinic. Yeah, look, those that are putting faith in Guida, they're probably hoping that he can outstrike Madsen. The problem is, I don't think he's going to have enough time, especially in that baby cage, to let any shots off outside of the first round, outside of the third round, sorry. So I am siding with Madsen. Not so much the younger fighter, but he's certainly the fresher fighter. No blemishes on his chin. And I think he's just going to be more durable in that. With that said, I do know that his jaw was broke in that Austin Hubbard fight, and it has been rough for him outside the cage. He's been going through some rough patches with his having to take time off. I think his wife caught MS, and then obviously he had to deal with the broken jaw and stuff. So you never know what's going on in a fighter's mind. I wouldn't totally count out Clay Guida, but anybody that got Guida at plus 210, I think that's the type of price I'd want if I was going to put anything on Guida at all. now the line's getting a bit tighter. Minus 170 on Madsen for me. It is a decent play, probably a parlay play, not so much straight up, because I don't really want to pay 2 units for a guy who, although he does have elite wrestling, he hasn't really been a world beater since turning to MMA. So the pick is Madsen. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Carpenter could pull something out and shock everyone in this ugly kind of main event.
No, I'm with you on that one. Now, via BetOnline, Madsen is minus 160 and Guida is plus 140. And if you guys want to, just check out the MMA props. They're all out there for you. The fight to go the distance is juiced at minus 210, if you guys like that prop. But anyway, let's move on to the main event. And I think this is an interesting main event. We have middleweight Jared Cannonier versus Kelvin Gastelum. Via BetOnline, Cannonier is minus 154 and Gastelum is plus 134. Matt, I'll begin with you for your breakdown and pick for the main event.
Whoo! Another toughie. Not really that tough when you take a quick look at both Kelvin Gastelum and Jared Cannonier, their past couple of fights. Let's take a look at the last 5 for Kelvin Gastelum. Decision loss to Robert Whittaker, a decision win over Ian Heinisch, and then 3 straight losses to Jack Hermanson by submission, Darren Till by decision, Israel Adesanya by decision. We have not seen a winning streak from Gastelum since 2018 when he beat Jacare and he retired Michael Bisping. But in the fight before that, he lost to Chris Weidman. So inconsistency and inability to get himself into a pattern of getting a solid amount of victory over the past couple of years. And those fights where he's going to the next level, going back to his loss to Tyron Woodley back in 2015, where he missed weight for his fight with Tyron Woodley. Those step-up fights have been big potholes that he has sunk right into. And it's hard for me to go with Kelvin Gastelum. When you take a look at Jared Cannonier, he had my curtain just fell. That's always fun. A decision loss to Robert Whittaker, 3 straight wins over Jack Hermanson, Anderson Silva, and David Branch. And his last loss before the loss to Whittaker was being knocked out by Dom Reyes. So, and that was almost going on 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago now, back in May of 2018. So it's really easy for me to take Jared Cannonier here, and that seems to be the lock for me. I'm going to take Jared Cannonier. He's going to get the win on Saturday night.
All right, interesting. What about you, Dave? Do you see Kelvin Gastelum winning on Saturday night, or no?
Yes, I do. I think this might be the first fight me and Matt disagree on in this main card. Again, I mean, this is a main event. You know, both middleweights coming off a loss and they're headlining a card, which is okay because, you know, number 5 ranked Jared Cannonier, number 10 ranked Kelvin Gastelum. But, you know, I can also understand why I see some complaints from the fans. But we also have to remember that this was originally meant to be Cannonier versus Paulo Costa, which I probably would have preferred to see. And Cannonier, I mean, shoot me down if you must, but I think he's overrated. And sure, you know, he owns a few TKO finishes. I just don't think he's top 5 worthy. He's 3-1 in the middleweight division, but defeating Branch, an aging Anderson Silva and Jack Hermanson has OP'd that ranking, in my opinion. But, you know, we also shouldn't be surprised because it's the middleweight division, a division that's quite thin in talent. I think we could see a brawl early on in this fight. Gastelum is going to be the faster man, faster striker. Cannonier is going to own the power advantage. And in terms of grappling or wrestling, whatever you want to call it, he doesn't want any part of it. He's got a good sprawl. He's not the worst at defending takedowns, but that's how he avoids them with a sprawl. But if you've got any sort of chain wrestling or reactive doubles or singles in the middle of that cage, in the open, this guy struggles. Body locks for me and single to doubles, that they're going to be there for Gastelum, and Gastelum has proved that he can wrestle. He hasn't used it as much as he should, but this kid can wrestle. Cannonier is a low volume guy, whereas Gastelum is quite the opposite. Gastelum's intelligence in that cage has been quite questionable. But when you look at these top fights against the likes of Adesanya and Whittaker, he has impressed people in some of these losses. I think realistically, I think the best path for Kelvin in his career would be to lose weight and take the weight loss serious and go to welterweight and try it again. I know he struggled last time, and it was difficult for him. But if he took this serious, I think he could be a serious threat in that division. The size disadvantage, that has always been the kryptonite, in my opinion. But then you look at Cannonier again. This guy spent a lot of his career fighting at heavyweight and light heavyweight, and now he's a middleweight. So it's no surprise, that he's got a lot of power in him, and he will own that power advantage. But how's Gastelum going to win this? I think in the boxing range, I think both of these men own really good jabs. But because Cannonier isn't that much of a counter striker, I think Gastelum is just going to have a lot of success at popping those jabs off, and even at close range. He ain't got to worry about no takedowns coming his way. And when it comes to scrapping, I think early on we might see a scrap in this fight. I think Gastelum can own confidence there as well, because this guy does not get finished. This guy gets hit by some of the best strikers in the UFC, and he eats them up and spits them out. He has no problem. His durability is one of his best assets. And for Cannonier, I think it's going to have to be striking output, because with that no grappling offense at all, he's going to want to focus on the strikes. And again, he's a guy who's got a nice jab. He just needs to do more of it, because there's just low volume on Cannonier's behalf. And obviously, you've got that Jack Hermansson fight. That rear uppercut came in beautifully. If he can time that when Gastelum's going to be attempting some shots or some takedowns, I mean, that could certainly make Gastelum think twice about going for the takedowns. And then I think both men make good use of their feet too. Cannonier does make good use of his leg kicks, and the low kicks on Gastelum could certainly remove Gastelum's neediness to be getting on the inside. For me, I just think that Gastelum is the more complete martial artist of these two, and with Cannonier's takedown defense just up in the air, especially as I mentioned, when them takedowns are chained together, I'm just not sure he can get off his back. He can definitely get up close to the cage, but in the open, if Gastelum gets him down, I'm not sure that Cannonier is going to be able to get to his feet, and Gastelum is going to be raining shots down while he's on the mat. And despite the available odds telling me that Cannonier is the favorite here, I'm siding with the underdog. I'm siding with the guy who I believe is the more well-rounded and complete martial artist. I know his record is ugly, and I think that's the reason why he opened up at some insane price. I can't remember what he opened up at. I think it was just under plus 200. But again, I do have to applaud anyone that jumped on Gastelum at that price, because that really was the place to be. I gave him out on SBR's first look article. I think it was plus 130. But now you can even get him at some books for plus 140, which I still think is a great price. It's going to have to be Kelvin Gastelum for me. When you also look at Jared Cannonier in that third round with Rob Whittaker, where was he? Was he even in that third round? I do not think Jared Cannonier has what it takes to go 5 rounds, whereas we've saw Kelvin Gastelum in some absolute wars. And I've got a funny feeling, and do you know what? I wouldn't be opposed to taking Gastelum by KO. Maybe inside the distance, actually, because I think Cannonier can just be gone after that third, and I've got a funny feeling that we could see a guy go crazy in the first 2 and be looking for that kill shot, and when that kill shot doesn't come, I think we could see Kelvin Gastelum really take over and put a beating on Cannonier. See, Gastelum's gonna have more output, maybe not early on, but this guy, he just more comes to it. The more you put the fight on him, the more he gives back. And this is not a championship level fighter. He's fighting, in my opinion. I think this is actually a great style matchup for Gastelum. He's fighting a power puncher who's going to be looking to take his head off, and he's got the tools to avoid it. So, yeah, my pick, I'm going with the dog, Kelvin Gastelum, and maybe even by TKO. I'm not sure what the price is on that, but if that's going, into the 300s, 400s, then half a unit on that, I think, is a great player.
Yeah, no, I'm so happy you said Kelvin Gastelum because I also included this fight in my top UFC picks video, and I'm backing Gastelum for that one. So check it out if you want to hear my reasoning. But I'm looking at the MMA props. Gastelum by TKO or KO is plus 475.
There we go.
There's good value right there.
That's great. I mean, you don't need to take that because you've got great odds on him. Yeah, you've got great odds on him just to win. And if it goes the distance, I can't see how Cannonier is going to win this. But on the judges' scorecards, unless he gets a knockdown in 3 rounds, 1, 2, and 3. I mean, after that, when we're getting into the 15-minute, between the 10 and 15-minute territory, I think Cannonier is going to be slow. I think he's going to be slow. He's going to be plodding, and Kelvin Gastelum won't be. So for me, this is Gastelum's fight to lose.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at the props for this fight to go the distance. Both no and yes are sitting at minus 115, so it's 50-50 right there with that. So this is going to be an interesting fight. I'm really excited for this. But anyway. Straight up, Cannonier is minus 154 and Gastelum is plus 134 via BetOnline. Now, that is the entire main card. Let's get into our prelims. We're going to get into our top prelim picks, and I'm going to pull up the preliminary card right now, and it's not a bad card. We got William Knight versus Fabio Charant on there. Brian Kelleher is going to be in the card. I feel like honestly, I like the prelim card better than the main card, in my personal opinion, which is weird. But I want to hear what your top prelim pick. Matt, I'll begin with you for your top prelim pick.
All right, well, let's take a look at this card. Obviously, I talked about Roosevelt Roberts earlier. He's on the card against Ignacio Bonamendes, and another top-flight MMA name. There's some great MMA names on this card. You got B. Malecki. That's just top flight, but I like the bantamweight fight in the co-main event of the prelims. You got Brian Kelleher against Domingo Pilarte. You got Austin Lingo and Luis Saldana closing things out on the prelim card. A solid card here. I like the women's bantamweight fight. I want to see that division grow, and I want to see some new talent in there. Malecki's 4-0. Josiane Nunez is only 7-1. So that one's going to be a pretty good, breaking ground fight for either fighter. Yeah. There's a lot of good fights on this card, but I'm going with the top 2. I'm going with Brian Kelleher's fight as the fight to watch on the prelims this Saturday. All
right, beautiful. Well, how about you, Dave? What is your top prelim pick?
Yeah, do you know what? I'll roll off Matt straight away because I think the Kelleher Pilate fight, it did stand out to me. Veteran slugger Kelleher. He's going to be looking to keep on that impressive streak of finishing guys inside the distance. I had this as one of my parlay picks, and it was 46 professional bouts between these two men, and there has only been 6 of those that have reached the judges' scorecards. So you know where I'm heading with that one. I do not think this is going the distance. Not only is Kelleher going to be able to have a striking advantage with the power that he's got, you'll notice when looking at Pilate, he's not bad when he's on the attack. He likes to give it. But as soon as that boy takes it, he does not like getting hit, and he does not like a mean dude, and that's exactly what Kelleher is. I think Kelleher can knock him out, or he can, lock up that guillotine choke that he's got, which is won fights on several occasions. So I think picking Kelleher or even under 2.5 rounds is something you could take notice of. And then, there's some underdogs on this card who I think stand a great chance. I mean, Luis Saldana did not really impress me. I'm not sure why. He's a minus 140 favourite at some books. I think Austin Lingo has a great chance, especially at plus money. But bear in mind, these are fights that I would only be interested in at plus money. Again, Sasha Palatnikov, I think he has a great chance at plus money. Some books have got him at plus 120. And then, believe it or not, Fabio Cherant, I mean, he's not the prettiest of guys, but William Knight, I really did overrate him. And when I look back at William Knight now and I look at that previous fight against Darren Jung, I think that he was exposed a bit. I think he was exposed. He outside of brute power and strength, William Knight does not impress me. And when I'm looking at these odds, minus 200 at some books. For me, that is just not viable, and I think Cherant could finish him on the standing or on the ground, in my opinion. So, if that price keeps, favoring Knight, I would not be opposed to looking into Fabio at all, because you can get him between plus 150 and plus 170. But overall, yeah, these prelims, they're not too bad at all. And I think the under 2.5 rounds, or just taking Brian Kelleher to win, is probably one of my best plays on the preliminary card.
I'll just read off Kelleher's odds for real quick. He's minus 175, and the under 2.5 is minus 170. So there you have it. But yeah, my favorite fight on this card is definitely the William Knight and Fabio Cherant fight, because I just feel like they're both so powerful. And I was leaning Fabio Cherant because those dog odds are really nice too. But I'm not placing any money on this prelim card just because I'm like recovering from my birthday this weekend and really did not look into the prelim card. So Justin Villegas, there's a reason why I don't give out picks, because if I'm not completely certain, I will not just give it to you, because I don't want to give you bad picks. So there you have it for the preliminary card. And now our favorite segment, our lock on the card. For me, man, this card is so weird. I don't have a lock. Just like off the bat, like just staring at it, my first like go-to would be Mark Madsen. But even then, a lock on this card for me is very hard. So I'm being very honest, but if I had to choose a lock on here, I'd choose Mark Madsen. But I want to hear your locks in this card. And Matt, I'll begin with you for your lock on this card.
If it's anybody, it's Mark Madsen. Like that's the most comfortable. Like, and I'm not even like saying take this one to the bank. Like it's just there's so many questions every week. They just make it hard. They're trolling us at this point. They're trolling the prognosticators to
They're
try
testing us, okay?
They vex me. They vex me on a weekly basis. But Mark Madsen's the only one that I would really throw into out of that. And Joseph Gomez, smart one in celebrating Lee's birthday. Happy belated birthday, Lee.
Well, thank you. It was actually like a really, really good birthday this year. I don't want to get off topic, but yes, it was a great birthday this year. And my birthday present was UFC 265 tickets. So that's why it was the best birthday. But anyway, Dave, can we have your potential lock on this card, please?
Nope. No, I'm joking.
I don't blame you.
To be fair, look, I always hate on these locks, but I'm pretty good at it. I mean, my record is pretty astonishing, if I do say so myself. Yeah. I can scour high and low. There is nobody out there with a record like mine, so I will tap myself on the back. But that is mainly based down to knowing when and when not to. And this is a week where I won't be giving out any key plays as I do, because I don't see any key plays. But for the show's purpose, yes, I will give out a lock. And my lock, call me crazy, is Kelvin Gastelum. I think Kelvin Gastelum...
you just give me chills. I love it.
I think Kelvin Gastelum has the tools, really. Just has the tools to fend off Jared Cannonier and, a striking output that just doesn't do much for me. So, yeah, I'm going to take Gastelum being able to withhold... being able to take them power shots at Cannonier and winning what I think should be a great scrap. So yeah, that will be my luck. And obviously, you guys mentioned Madsen. I do think, I do think he is rounds 1 and 2 anyway. 100%. I feel like Madsen should cover them, but with these judges, this is another thing as well, and it's tough. If I see a fight and it's got potential to go the distance, it's starting to scare me off because the judging's getting real bad. PFL especially, some of the decisions that are being made, people's careers, are being tarnished, and then you've got people like us. Our money is basically being stolen from us because of incompetent judging, and it leaves a sour taste in my mouth sometimes, and it gives you a little bit of a dislike,
It's frustrating
for the sport. Exactly. So, and that's what annoys me. But this week, it's not a heavy betting card at all. I think the best thing to do is be a fan and enjoy it, and enjoy the rest of the weekend with Pac-Man fighting. And I think Bare Knuckle have got an event. PFL's got another event, but don't bet on it because of the damn judging. The Bellator's on this week, right? I think they've got a heavyweight. Chet Congo is fighting on Bellator this week. So there's so much to get up to this weekend other than risk your money on this Vegas 34 card. But yeah, just enjoy it.
Literally, it's pure entertainment. Just enjoy the card. If you really want to spend your money or gamble your money away, go to the casino or something and watch your fights there. Anyway, that is our entire main card breakdown. We dabbled into the prelims and gave our potential lock on this card. Yes, this frustrating card, but it's going to be a great weekend because there's going to be a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Now, if you aren't following the guys on Twitter, definitely give them a follow. You can follow Matt at MRyan Consulting, and you can follow Dave at DManion_. While you're at it, just give SBR a follow at SBR Sports Picks. And if you want to find more UFC content regarding breakdowns, picks, anything you want, just go to sbrpicks.com/UFC. And also, my football fans, don't forget to register for our Pick 6 football contest. Just go to sbrpicks.com/pick 6. I will be playing again this year, so the pressure is on. Come play with me and let's have some fun. Now, I wish you all the best of luck this weekend, and I'll see you next time.